Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Leader Talk. I'm SEAC retired John Wayne Troxell, and Leader Talk is brought to you and powered by Veterans Lending Group, the #1 VA home loan company in the country. And today we are going to talk with three great professionals and my teammates at Eyewear Safety Systems, three guys that really get after providing top of the line and cutting edge protective eyewear to our troops and our law enforcement. And with me today is my three very good friends and colleagues, Mike Vigoria. Vig, how are you today, brother?
Doing good.
All right. And then the former U.S. Army National Guard Command Sergeant Major retired Brunk Conley. Brunk, how are you?
Well, John Wayne, I'm doing great down here in the great state of Oregon. Thanks for having us on.
And last but surely not least, former U.S. Army Alaska Command Sergeant Major, a guy that I spent extensive time with in combat, Command Sergeant Major retired Bernie Knight. Bernie, how are you? You got to unmute yourself, dude.
Doing well, John. Thank you. I'm down here in Tampa now versus Alaska, but it is 50 degrees today, so it's a little chilly.
Awesome. Well, hey, gentlemen, thanks for taking time out of your schedules. And today we just want to have a discussion about one, the leadership and the art of influence necessary between the military, law enforcement, and industry. But more importantly, I want your opinion as seasoned leaders in the Army for Brunk and Bernie and Vig in the Air Force on some of the challenges that our military is facing today in terms of recruiting, but also as we enter into this next phase that our nation is going through, and which our national defense strategy titles integrated deterrence. What does that mean in terms of getting after deterrence, but also maintaining that posture and focus of fighting and winning? So, Vig, I want to start with you, and I'm going to give each of you gentlemen a little bit of time here just to tell our audience about yourselves, who you are, and what you do. So, Vig, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, John. I appreciate that. I am the general manager for ESS. I've been here for 15 years, and like I always say, they ran out of people to put in charge, so I'm lucky enough to lead a team that is awesome. We have mostly veterans. We have a really intelligent, motivated, and humble team. So my background is, like you said, Air Force, 11 years, 3 kids, wife, life. So
awesome. Well, thanks, brother. All right, Brunk.
Yeah, hey, John. I started out as an Army Ranger, married to my lovely wife for over 40 years, and we left the Army, and we both became school teachers. I was a high school physics and chemistry teacher, and I say that's my number one way I would describe myself. But then after 9/11, things changed a little bit, and was in the Army Guard and did a couple deployments and ended up as the Army National Guard Command Sergeant Major, as you said. But I was going to go back and teach school when I left the Army National Guard, and then Vig brought me in and had a little talk with me, and they convinced the chemistry and physics teacher that ESS was the finest eyewear in the world. So that's how I ended up here. Over.
Awesome. And Bernie.
Yes, John. Well, first, thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk with you and Brunk and Mike. Well, my service goes back. I joined way back in 1981, just not long after high school. I joined the Marine Corps. Then I got educated, and I left the Marine Corps and joined the Army. And I served about 32 years of military service. All in all, it was an excellent time. I served in combat tours, multiple combat tours. I served in the Army's elite training grounds, the National Training Center, twice. And I've served from airborne to mechanized wheeled vehicles. And now I'm a regional director at Eye Safety Systems, proven protective eyewear, the one that first responders, military, anyone who puts themselves in harm's way in their duties or even at leisure, should be wearing that eyewear. And that I stand behind this eyewear. And one of the things about ESS is that drew me to it was they are committed and determined to improve that eyewear to help people. Period. That's their number one goal. And that really struck me well, the way they want to support the military. And so thank you for having me on, John.
Yeah. So Vig, I want to ask you, being the general manager, kind of being our boss here, and everything, as Bernie just described, ESS continues to be the most trusted product amongst our military and law enforcement. Why do you think that is?
Well, first and foremost, we've been around for a long time, right? We were established in 1998, and our mission was to build eyewear that's going to protect those who protect us. But I think our collective family understands that it's family first. And by that, I mean personal family, military family, and ESS family, right? We're all together. And if we put family first and we work hard together, everything else is going to come along. You already said it. We support and protect those who serve and support us. And we're not doing it because we're trying to make a bunch of money. We're not doing it, no one on our team is commissioned. We all just work hard and try to do the right thing for the right reasons. And I think if we keep that mantra, if we keep doing the right things, the rest will come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, so Brunk and Bernie, being, retired command sergeant majors like me, we focused a lot in making sure that the PPE, the personnel protective equipment that our troops had, was top of the line. Why is it so important? All right, Bernie, I mean, this might be a no-brainer, but you were a guy that, we were together for a good extensive amount of time in Afghanistan when you were probably in the most dangerous part of the world at that time, Panjwai district down in Kandahar province of Afghanistan. Why is it so important that we continue to deliver state-of-the-art PPE?
Well, first of all, John, I believe it goes back to the people. We care about our people. And in the military, we always say our most important resource is the people. And so all of our people that we send outside the wire have the possibility of getting shot at, have the possibility of getting blown up. And from two different combat operations, you got an EFP, you got deep buried IEDs, and all these things create a blast. Even in a vehicle, when the vehicle gets blown up, any little pebble inside that vehicle becomes a projectile. And so, by going to the medical places around the country in combat, you can see the little circle around the eyes where their eyes were protected. And we have guys today, and I know you can account for it, that can see because they wore those glasses. So firsthand, I've seen them work. My first tour, 2 weeks into the battle, captain was shot right in the eye by an AK-47. He was in the prone doing his job, and it ricocheted off and shattered his cheekbone. Now, he was out the war. I lost the soldier for the war, but he's still alive and he can see. And I don't know about you, but I don't know how I could ever imagine not being able to see after I've been able to see for 60 years now.
Yeah. And Brunk, sometimes the National Guard gets left behind a little bit in getting the top of the line equipment. As the Army National Guard Command Sergeant Major, I know you worked your butt off to make sure that your troops had the best equipment in theater. So how difficult was that for you to make sure that the Guard got the same kind of treatment as our active force did and had that appropriate PPE necessary for the modern battlefield?
Well, I'll tell you, John, I really don't think it was that big of a deal as far as individual equipment went since 9/11, because the Army established the Rapid Fielding Initiative, and every soldier, regardless of component, was provided with the top of the line equipment. And then we had the funding available to supplement that with what leaders thought the soldiers would need in the battlefield. So as far as individual soldier equipment, I did not see a degradation between the active and Guard and Reserve. I would like to add on to what Bernie said, though, about PPE. Right,
Yeah.
we're all combat arms soldiers, and you know, in the Army part, and yes, we want to protect soldiers' eyes, arms, limbs, and eyesight. But here's the thing that an infantryman also needs, and this goes along with your E-Tool Nation. We also want our soldiers to close with and destroy the enemy. And the optics on an ESS eyewear not only protects, but it's the finest optics that allows a combat armed soldier to do that part of the mission. And that's just as important as the protective part. The optics are superior.
Awesome. So, Vig, where are we going in ESS in the future? What's the future look like, and how do we, as you described earlier, how we continue to get after this with a family atmosphere? But technology wise, where are we going in the future now? Where do you think ESS will land?
So we have an entire roadmap, and I don't want to put it out there in the space, but obviously some of it includes advanced laser eye protection, different coatings, and different lens technologies that allow you to see wires, different things in the space. Obviously, we're working with Gentex and other companies to try to advance our heads-up displays, in-eye, in-lens technologies, et cetera, et cetera. So we're on the forefront, and I'm hesitant to tell everybody out there exactly what that's going to look like, but we've been working on it, and it's good because we have not only our parent company Oakley, but Luxottica, who are supporting that, and they understand we have to be at the forefront, and they're investing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Go ahead, Bronk.
Okay, just since Vig brought it up, the chemistry and physics teacher, Mike Vig, took us down to Oakley, and we got to tour the lab. And that's where I really, really understood, being a chemistry physics teacher, having access to the Oakley lab is profound for our eyewear. It is the finest optics lab in the nation, and a lot of our research and development comes right out of that laboratory. And you can ask Vig. I asked if I could just do a week and do an internship down there and just help him with the laboratory stuff. It was that good.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. You know, what I took away from my visit there was that we at ESS are constantly looking for ways to make sure that our warriors can see first, they can understand first, they can act first, and then they can finish decisively, even if it's a comfortable set of eye protection that allows them to properly sight their rifle, or if it's something that can withstand the climate. You know, Bernie, having served in Alaska, you know what that kind of weather up there can do in terms of eye protection and everything. And I'm with you, Bronk. I was just amazed. Bernie, any thoughts?
No, I think you guys are right on target. I mean, you got to have clear optics. You can't have eye strain and headaches. It's got to feel comfortable. You remember the old Kevlar,
Oh yeah.
that thing, the old steel pot, soldiers were just always wanting to take it off. They get the Kevlar and they go, oh, I don't need to take it off. It feels great. Well, if you got the great eyewear, they won't take it off either.
Yeah.
And so that's very important.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to change gears something right quick. And Bronk, I'm going to start with you on this. Hey, the Department of Defense had their most challenging year in decades. Really, arguably since the inception of the all-volunteer force in terms of recruiting, falling almost 20,000 short across the Department of Defense. In your opinion, what needs to be done to make military service more attractive to young men and women, and that we can get after these recruiting shortfalls?
Well, thanks for asking that. I recently had the opportunity to be a guest speaker at the Oregon Army National Guard Recruiting and Retention Conference in Sun River, Oregon. And they asked me that same question. And we're old dogs, but, we still have a lot of old tricks. And the one thing that I told them, in my honest belief, and this is National Guard specific, they have to know their product and what they're selling. The the product we're selling is an honorable, wonderful, patriotic, selfless service type organization. And they have to sell those Army values, and specifically in the Guard, what makes a guardsman want to serve. They have to know their product. And if they know their product inside and out, in the Guard, and I'm Guard specific, so I'll let Bernie talk and you talk, John, a little bit more about the active. In the Guard, it's about local service. It's about serving. They don't want a PCS. They don't want to go to Korea or Fort Campbell or Germany. They want to serve in their local state. They want to fight floods and fires. They want to be there when there's civil disturbance, and they're happy to go do the federal mission as well. But they want to stay close and local, and they want to, go to college or raise their family or start a business. And in order to do that, the current recruiters in the National Guard, which has shortages as well, they have to know their product inside and out, and they have to hook those young men and women on what the Guard in particular brings to their state and to their nation, and what they're allowed to do, and how they can also seek self-improvement, right? By, starting businesses, being active in the community, going to college. I think that a lot of those answers would cross over to the active duty as well. But that was my specific message when I talked to that group of recruiters.
Awesome. Bernie, what are your thoughts?
Wait a minute. I'm going to interrupt.
Well, I did do some service.
All right.
Okay.
So I actually looked at this: service before self, excellence in all we do, integrity first. Right? Yeah. Other way around. Sorry. Integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. And that's what you just said, basically. Right, Brunk? I mean, once our young people understand that, and I think that takes good parenting, but it also takes good mentorship. We need to look out and reach out and be there for the young people in America and try to bring them along. So, sorry.
No, that's
kind of
good, Vic.
stole my thunder a little bit.
Based on that, do you think that one of the challenges is that, if 1% of the force nowadays serves, and when you look overall, for the last decades, the numbers vary, but around 7% have served. Do you think the more of the influencers to this generation are grandparents or great uncles and aunts or somebody like that, more so than parents? Because if 1% served, do you think that has something to do with it?
I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Bernie, your thoughts?
Well, John, I always tell people, it's a small army. It's a large family. And probably 70% of the folks that served, their offspring will serve also.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the numbers are, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty high. And, it's probably because their children grow up watching them live their life with some values and some beliefs that are good. And I think that, and if you didn't learn them before you came in the military, you certainly got them while you were in. So, when you went around the community or anywhere, you always expressed yourself in those values. And so my problem, I think, with our retention, you got to look at the world as a whole right now and what's going on with society, because society's joining the military. And so I think three things got to happen. One, we got to show how we are a professional organization that has values, okay, and beliefs that are wholesome, and we don't get caught up to political policy. We stay and build warfighters, and we build professionals who can then transfer that career to something in the civilian community should they decide to leave service at whatever time in their life that they want to leave. Secondly, the COVID requirement. That's a big deal out there.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal out there. And so they're finding now that maybe the immunities from people who got COVID and this and that. And anyway, it's a family, right? So there's 50,000 or so.
Yeah. If I could just add that COVID requirement put another 20,000 on there that are being pushed out of service because they refuse to take the vaccine. So that's a 40,000 shortfall when you look at it from there.
Yeah.
You brought that up.
I was looking at somewhere around 50, but okay,
Yeah.
even 40. That's a number. We were short by 20, so
Yeah.
there are family members, and now we're kicking them out, and
Yeah.
so they're still there. They haven't caused a problem. We spent a lot of money training them. We brought them onto the team. Their problems will result when they leave the military service. They're taking that dissension with them. Okay, and so how's that going to affect recruiting? So how do we keep them? How do we
Yeah.
keep them? What's the choice to keeping them? Secondly, you have a problem with THC products that are legal in a lot of states now. And so recruiting people who haven't taken, the recruiting policy was if you come up positive for THC, they won't enlist you, or any drugs, they won't enlist you in the military. Now I'm hearing that they may have waived that now. I don't know if that's true, but there's another problem. And then the third, besides the COVID problem, because again, there's families out there that have a belief that they shouldn't take the COVID-19, so they don't want their children, the propensity that who have the propensity to enlist, they don't want them to enlist, and so that's an issue with COVID. And third, I think back where Brunk was the leaders of the Army and recruiting have a responsibility to educate civic leaders in the community, families in the community, and our educational institutions across America, what the Army does provide that's good and wholesome for the men and women of America. So there's, I think, three things we got to look at to get where we want to go. The money's there. There's a good quality paycheck with soldiers. They make good money, and it's a good job. But how do we translate that to the folks that want to raise their hand for our country?
Yeah. So, Vig, I'm going to ask you this because you're a little bit closer to the corporate side on ESS than us three are. I was just recently talking to a corporate leader, and he was talking about something that as he was trying to continue to get after synergy in the force and everything, or within his organization. And, he was getting beat up that they didn't have pet bereavement policies that allowed leave for folks to, if their dog died or something. Don't get me wrong. I think we all love our pets. And then there were some corporations out there that had been through this COVID thing, like Bernie talked about, and had been virtual working. And now these CEOs, and this guy in particular, knows that in order to build a cohesive organization, and to really continue to get after the transformational approach, you have to have some in-person kind of stuff going on. So you kind of talked about that selfless service, and I think that has kind of gotten skewed in our society here a little bit in terms of what's best for the organization and then what's best for the individual. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, that could be a long conversation, but I'll go down this road. My dad was a coal miner and my mom was a school teacher. And
Yeah.
in my opinion, my upbringing, you got up, you went to work, and that's how it worked. And you came home. And I think 2 generations later, we're losing that. They've seen, especially some of the young people have seen their parents just at home working hard. I'm sure most of us, at least, but the concept of I get up, I go to work, I work hard, I come home, I pay the bills, I provide, is getting lost. And I don't know how we're going to fix that. I mean, it's a really difficult situation we're in right now.
Yeah. Bronco, Bernie, any thoughts on what we're discussing here?
Well, yeah, we all have thoughts about this, right? Being in the military is a team sport, and it's not a remote sport. It's not a do it via the internet. And I was just at a football awards banquet last night here in Little State in Oregon. My grandson just got done playing football this season, and the head coach got up there and basically talked about everything that makes a good soldier happens on the football field. Teamwork, commitment, leadership, putting the extra time in, taking care of each other. And I think, we four are from a different generation where we went outside until the street lights went on and mom called us home to dinner, and we never, I remember the height of electronics was the little handheld football game, and that's all we had. And we played sports all day long, and we hung out. We went skiing and hunting and fishing and spent a lot of time. And I think we've lost a lot of that. And I think when you talked about recruiting a little bit, I thought, back when I enlisted, they used to have this buddy program where you could enlist with a buddy and go to basic training in AIT. It may be time I haven't heard if that's still in effect or not, but it may be time, as you guys were talking about, it's a family affair. And in the Conleys, it's definitely a family affair. We have a lot of my children have served, and my granddaughter's getting ready to enlist. Maybe if we brought back the buddy thing and guaranteed them that they go to basic and AIT and maybe their first duty assignment together, if they get through it all, that may be one thing to look at. Over.
Yeah. Ernie, any quick thoughts?
Well, no, just the same thing as everybody else. We grew up with nothing's free. You got to get out there and work for a living. The most honorable thing to be is a hardworking, decent young man. That's what I grew up with. And so I think America has to figure out how they quit giving handouts to folks. And, some of that stuff you can get if you just get a job. And serving in the military is one way to get college, one way to raise your bank account. Just one way to be a good professional with values. And so there you have it.
Awesome. All right, folks, you're watching Leader Talk, powered by Veterans Lending Group. And we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll come back with my teammates at ESS here. So right after this short commercial break to hear from Veterans Lending Group.
At Veterans Lending Group, we're not just VA home loan specialists. We are educators, community leaders, military service members, or family of those who serve. We are committed to serving, supporting, and educating our military families. 60% of our staff are prior service or spouses, and 85% of the loans we close are VA loans. We are your special ops of VA lending. We will not restrict your VA home loan benefit like many other lenders do. We believe that you have earned this benefit through your service, and we are here to protect your right to use it the way the VA wrote the guidelines. Our team can lend in all 50 states. We are here to assist you with your next home purchase or refinance, whether you are PCSing, transitioning, or retiring. Our team of specialists are here to support your family. Visit our website today to connect with a VA specialist. www.veteranslendinggroup.com.
And we're back on Leader Talk. My guests today are the General Manager of Eyewear Safety Systems and Air Force veteran Mike Vigoria, and my two fellow guys that I served extensively with on active duty and in combat, Brunk Conley and Bernie Knight. Hey, Jen, since I just mentioned about combat and everything, the new National Defense Strategy, Secretary Austin lays out, based off of the President's National Security Strategy, at how to get after this integrated deterrence that is, to combat threats like China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, meaning we're going to continue to build interoperability with partners and allies, and we're going to continue to be an expeditionary force to reinforce these partnerships and everything, and everything. So we've been fighting for 20 years up until we left Afghanistan. We still got some troops in Syria and Iraq. So Bernie, I'm going to start with you. As we move into this phase called integrated deterrence, which is more about not fighting than fighting, but being prepared to fight, how do we pull, and why is it important we pull those combat lessons that we've learned over 20 years of combat forward to this force now, especially when you look at the younger troops, where well over half have zero combat experience. They might have some deployment experience, but they haven't had to face the business end of an enemy rifle. Your thoughts?
Well, you have plenty of leaders out there who have had the business end. So that's a start.
Absolutely.
But if you remember, my first 20 years of service, we weren't going to war, but we were the best. When we went to Desert Storm, we were the best trained at doing our job that we could ever be, whether you were a tank gunner, a pilot, an infantryman, a medic, it didn't matter. We were, I believe in my heart, we were the best trained we've ever been. And so we got to get to that. I believe that you got to continue to make each person a lethal warfighter, whether that warfighter is a clerk typist and he wages his combat lethality through a typewriter, through a pen, through an eyeglass, or through a rifle or the muzzle of a barrel. We got to train them to be the best at that in the event this happens. What does that do? That deters. But you also have to have the weaponry. Okay, so I used to always say, you got to have the troops, you got to have them trained on the equipment to do the job, and you got to have the equipment to do the job. So troops, equipment to do the job, and be trained on it. If you do those three things, one, they'll stay focused and committed. The world will notice because they see you doing it, and that will deter enemy aggression.
Awesome. Bronk, your thoughts?
Okay, I know you both are my peers on this. Do you remember post-Vietnam and Creighton Abrams, and we had the Creighton Abrams doctrine, and also, do you remember the FMC land air battle?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so in Brunk Conley's opinion, we are in the post-global war on terrorism period, and we need to get back to a training army, and we need a doctrine similar to sea land air battle that unifies us in our in all of our training environments on how we are going to deter. And the three of us, it was in the Cold War, and it's all about the Fulda Gap and all about the Soviet Union. Well, I think we're in a same situation where we need the next Creighton Abrams, all right, to come up with the new doctrine, and maybe it is integrated deterrence, integrated deterrence. I don't know, but is there an FM or a manual that comes with that will set guidance for how we're going to train and how we're going to fight? Now, as I read about integrated deterrence, I think what it's trying to do is break down the silos of excellence, so that we can integrate across domains and communicate better and have systems, that work across not only the Army and the different MOSs and specialty have, but multi-service and our allies and our partners. And that's going to be challenging because you guys both know when we served in Iraq or Afghanistan in particular, we had a broad coalition of our NATO allies, but they all came with different caveats and different things that they could not do. And that is it can be a benefit, but it can be a hindrance to a unified integrated approach. I don't know if that met what you were talking about, John, but that's kind of my thoughts on the deal.
Yeah. Vig, your thoughts?
So this is way out of my wheelhouse. So all I have to say is we need more defense spending, right? We need to support the troops and the folks who are out there doing the job every day. And we've lost that. And until we get better funding and better training, we're not going to get back to being the force that we used to be.
I think you bring up a great point because there are many in Congress right now that are saying that the military budget is too robust because we're not in Afghanistan anymore and we have limited troops in Syria and Iraq. But I think what they fail to understand, or they just choose not to understand, is that it's still a contentious environment out there in terms of what China's doing all over the world. Look at what the Russians are doing right now. Even though they're getting their heads handed to them, they're still a nuclear power and they still can have some economic impact and everything. And then certainly with North Korea and Iran, and the terrorists haven't gone away. It might be a nascent threat right now, but they haven't gone away and they're still out there. And let there be no doubt, they still want to plan, prepare, export, and execute a spectacular attack somewhere in Western Europe, and most certainly in the United States. So I think, Vig, your point is one of the key points, is that we cannot reduce defense spending because we're not in Afghanistan anymore. So thanks, gentlemen. Now, Vig, I'm going to come right back to you here because this is a critical one, and this kind of gets after defense spending. So the relationship between the military and industry can sometimes be a precarious one. I love when I worked for Secretary Mattis because he put it in the National Defense Strategy that we needed to leverage industry to better see ourselves in the Defense Department. So, Vig, how do we continue to strengthen and especially a major well-known organization like Eyewear Safety Systems, how do we continue to build this relationship between the industry and the military, that it's more of a seamless relationship than it sometimes can be?
Yeah. So again, could be a long answer, but I'll keep it short. First
Please.
of all, we need to make people, we need to make sure that military members who are approaching the end of their career or their time, they might be separating, know that we're here, right?
Yeah.
And there are key recruiters for that, for sure. We need them to understand that there are good jobs. We're starving for people who are responsible, educated, and hardworking. You give me that person, I'll hire him or her tomorrow. So I think we just need to keep that out there. I also think we need to, we integrate with Congress. We talk, we go to the Hill every year. We need to continue to be partners with them. And I know Brunt can talk to this better than I can, to just let them know we're a business that is working hard to do the right things for the right reasons. And part of that is making money.
Yeah.
But the bigger part of that is taking care of our military, law enforcement, and first responders. So,
yeah, you bring up a great point, and it's almost like, don't say, we're in to make money. I mean, Lockheed Martin doesn't sell or doesn't give away aircraft to the Department of Defense. I mean, they're selling aircraft to the Department of Defense. They're a business, and we got to get beyond this, that, oh, you're just here to make money and everything. Well, okay, the DOD is a corporation as well, and they want to be good stewards of everything that they have. So I appreciate that. Now, Brunk and Bernie, being former command sergeant majors, and I'll go to you first, Brunk. How, as a command sergeant major, did you build a relationship with industry, and to make sure that it was one that was of mutual respect and understanding, but more importantly, didn't cross any ethical lines?
Well, this is not my wheelhouse, like as Vig would say. I was really more of a personnel guy.
Yeah.
I wasn't a gear guy. I felt that my most important job was to get the best leaders in the best position to take soldiers into combat and do the best job. And I trusted that the Army would provide what we needed, and that the soldiers that were responsible for purchasing, in the G4 community and in purchasing, would do the research and provide us with the best stuff. So I really never had any issues dealing with industry. I would go to shows and I would walk around and they would show me stuff. And if something caught my attention, I would go to the G4 and say, hey, you need to look at this. But one of the things I have learned now that
wasn't that how we ended up at the $350 toilet seats? Because
yeah, right.
Just kidding, brother. Go ahead.
So one of the things I've learned.
Wait a minute. Was that a dig at the contracting folks?
Oh no.
So one of the things I've learned now is that sergeants major and leaders don't have to obligate anything to go and talk and learn about stuff.
Absolutely.
They need to be fearless. They need to know what's out there, because there may be something that they see that triggers a need that the military has, and they can get it to the right person. Say, we need to really look at that. So when I talk about our product in particular, I say, and these are all my friends, I said, I don't expect you to purchase just because it's Brunt Conley here. I expect you to let me compete, and we'll win based on our competition against our competitors. And if not, then we need to improve our product, right? And so when they hear that, they understand that it's all about competition, and it is about making money, right? But let the combatives match start and let the best eyewear win, and we feel that we'll win that match every time. And so I ease their mind and say, just let us show you what we have. You'll pick us because we're the best.
Yeah. Bernie, your thoughts, brother?
Well, I grew up from private to sergeant major, using all the gear, and the gear we had pre Desert Storm was old World War II Vietnam stuff. We're one of the best outfitted we are today. We need every edge in the battle. We need every edge we got, whether it's through aerial, your different levels, your communication, your weaponry. I mean, we need it. And so here, I'll just tell you a little about this. I would walk around and see what guys were wearing. I didn't want soldiers to buy kit. The Army should, if it's that good and the soldiers are buying it, then the Army should get it. And the person who's going to console the G4 the best, and the folks, the logisticians who buy, is the user. And so I really believe that not just sergeant majors and commanders, but staff sergeants, platoon sergeants, first sergeants, squad leaders, and even the soldiers need to go to these events where these vendors are out there, industry partners are out there, and see what's there. And I'll give you an example. I was at a show, and my son came because he's in the military, and I took him around the show and introduced him to people and let him see what was at the show. And he met a guy, and he goes, "Hey, wait a minute, I got a question. How come my radio doesn't charge all my batteries when I do this?" And the guy goes, holds up a cable and goes, "You got this?" He goes, "Do I need that?" And so the guy goes, "What company are you in?" And he went and saw him later, and he gave him 3 cables that got him through JRTC. And really, he was a hero because the entire company could charge all their batteries for their little radios that every squad leader carries. And they didn't know they didn't need it because they didn't know the equipment well enough. And so getting out to the industry can help educate them also. In Alaska, we brought a guy up who built the 777. He's the one who engineered it, showed us how to keep it running in the Arctic, which we didn't know because it's not in the manual. So I would just say, look at them as a gift, as somebody who can help you, kind of like AWG did for us. Somebody who can help you. You're not committed. Like Brunk said, you're not committed, but you're looking at what you need. Then you tell your logisticians, "Hey, we need that. We don't want it. We need it."
And it costs nothing to have a conversation.
Absolutely.
Nothing. And there's
Absolutely.
no ethical lines crossed by having a conversation. Just my opinion. I think some leaders aren't confident enough that they can have a conversation that won't cross an ethical line. So they just choose not to have that conversation because they don't know how to do that. And I go back to, that's part of being the art of leadership, is being able to have those conversations. And Bernie, you just hit it on the head. Your son would have never known that equipment if he wasn't having a conversation with a guy. And guess what? You found the solution. And certainly from ESS Eyewear, that's an important part of what we do in terms of educating folks and as Vig said, staying on top of the product. Well, hey, gents, we are out of time. I would love to have this. I mean, if we had a keg of beer, I could stay here all day with you guys, Or if I had a keg of beer, But to Vig, Brunk, and Bernie, thank you all so much for what you do every day to make our troops more lethal. I am just absolutely honored to be teammates with you and serve as an ambassador for ESS. And I look forward to the future here as we continue to deliver the #1 eye protection to our warfighters and to our law enforcement. So thanks again, gents. Thanks for being on here, and I'll see you all real soon.
It's our honor to have you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Sean.
And I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Veterans Lending Group. I am absolutely honored as well to be an ambassador for Veterans Lending Group and to be the host of Leader Talk. So you've been on the show here with the team from Eyewear Safety Systems, ESS. You can catch them at their website, ESS, and see all the kind of eye pro that they have. And gents, if you have it nearby, grab your favorite eye pro and put it on right quick. And let's show the world what we look like here. All right.
Okay, I blew it because mine are out there.
It's all good. It's all right. If you're the boss, you get a buy. All right. So anyways, thanks again, guys.